What's up everyone, China Cycling here. You guys asked for it, so here it is. Today we're going for a review of the Empire group set by Sensah. Now the core group set consists of the shifters, the front derailleur and the rear derailleur, but I've got a few other pieces from Sensah and their sister brand CVR to take a look at. So first we'll take a general look at everything before throwing it on the bike and seeing how it rides. Let's take a look. So let's start by checking out the shifters, as I think the shifters are kind of like the core component of any group set. So the first thing you'll notice when just looking at the shifters is that each shifter only has a single lever. It's not like SRAM and Shimano where you have the second lever for shifting inside. It's a 2x11 system, so you got 2 gears on your left hand, the front derailleur, the big ring and the little ring, and then you got 11 gears on the right hand on the rear derailleur. It's kind of like a hybrid between SRAM's double tap shifting logic and Shimano shifting logic. And what I mean by that is it's the same as Shimano that a big push goes to an easier gear and a small push goes to a harder gear. But on SRAM, you have the second lever that's doing that. Whereas this, it's actual brake lever itself, which is more similar to what Shimano does. So that's what I mean when I say it's kind of a combination of SRAM and Shimano shifting logic. So my first impression is that you have to push this quite a long way to get an easier gear. I don't know if it will feel easier when it's on the bike or whatever, but shifting to a harder gear is easy. In one click, I don't know how many easier gears we can get to. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so in one sweep you can go up 3 gears, which I think is the same as double tap. And then down a gear, down a gear, down a gear. Like I say, this sweep is feeling pretty hard with the shifter off the bike. We'll see how it performs on the bike. As for the left hand, again, same thing. So a big push. I can't even push that with one hand. We'll see if it's easier on the bike. A big push will put you in the big ring, and a small push will take you back down to the small ring. So big ring, small ring, big ring, small ring, big ring, big ring. No, I can't even do that off the bike, so we'll see if it's easier when you're on the bike. So this is the 22 speed version, like I said, with a front derailleur, rear derailleur and 2 shifters. This in China, these 4 pieces retail for 799 RMB, which is like $115, so super cheap. There's a version that's slightly cheaper for $699, and you don't get the front derailleur, and I believe the left shifter is just a dead shifter, or maybe they just give you this shifter anyway, but they don't give you the front derailleur. And so yeah, like 699 RMB is like $100. So let's see what the scales of truth have to say about the shifters. So first we'll do the right hand shifter, so maybe without the cable weight, because the cable's not quite on the scale. 241 grams for the right hand shifter, and 239 grams for the left hand shifter. So quick maths, 240 plus 240, 480 grams for the pair of shifters. So yeah, 480 grams for a pair of shifters, which puts it in line with Shimano's 105 shifters, which also weigh 486 grams. So next, let's have a quick look at the rear derailleur. This is rated up to 32 teeth rear cassette. But yeah, as you can see, not quite as long as a SRAM or Shimano medium cage road derailleur. But anyway, they've engineered it so it perfectly goes with a 32 tooth cassette. As for the feel, so there's not much you can say about a rear derailleur when it's not on the bike, but wow, that's a strong spring in there. That's going to keep the chain tight. As for the parallelogram, wow, that's a strong string too. Yeah, so there we go. As for cable pull ratios, it has the same cable pull ratio as SRAM, so 1:1, which means the shifters should be compatible with SRAM derailleurs, and this derailleur should be compatible with SRAM shifters. And again, let's throw it on the scales of truth. And we have 196 grams. 196 grams makes it about the same weight as a Shimano Ultegra rear derailleur, which is also 193 grams. So front derailleur, I've heard the front derailleur is trash, so we'll see what goes with that when we put it on the bike. It's a yaw style rear derailleur, so again similar to SRAM, but apparently should work with both SRAM and Shimano shifters. I guess I'll try it out and see how much it sucks, and then maybe I'll try swapping it out for a Shimano front derailleur and seeing if that does anything for shifting. But as for weight, if we throw it on the scales, we've got 96.7 grams. 96.7 grams is actually really heavy for a front derailleur. I think one of the heavier Shimano rear derailleurs, 105, it's only like 80 something grams. So yeah, 96 grams, pretty heavy for a front derailleur. So they also sent me some components from their sister company, CVC, including these brakes. So again, they're super cheap brakes, but 375 grams is what we've got, which again, about the same weight as a set of 105 brakes. Dual pivot, single pivot, yeah, dual pivot. So at least the stopping power should be nice. Again, we'll try them out. They did send me a 32 tooth cassette, which I'll show you in a second, but this is the bog standard cheap 1128 cassette, and so we'll see what this is. Wait, with a locking ring, without locking ring? Yeah, we'll do it without locking ring, will be nice. So we've got 292 grams there. So 292 grams, pretty heavy for an 1128. Again, about the same weight as like a 105 level cassette from Shimano. So they also sent me this, the 1132 cassette, but this one's a bit posh. As you can, I don't know if you can quite see, there are two different materials here. So here, these larger rings are aluminium, and these smaller rings are steel. And if we look at the back, it's actually looks like it's CNC'd out of a single piece of aluminium. So that's a nice looking piece of kit right there. As for weight, let's see what we got going on with this one. So an 1132, so you know, pretty beefy cassette. But an 1132 cassette, 212 grams. That's very impressive for an 1132 cassette. Yeah, but 212 grams for an 1132, that's lighter than a Dura Ace cassette at a fraction of the cost. So this guy retails for like 380 RMB here, which is under half the price of a DA cassette for basically the same weight. So it's cheaper and lighter than a Dura Ace cassette. They also sent me one of their CVR aluminium cranksets from their sister company CVR. And the great thing I like about this is, so I use 165 crank arm lengths, and this is a 165 crank arm length. Usually these small companies, you know, they have limited resources, they can't develop that many sizes. Usually they'll just make a 170 and a 175, but 165, I like it. It's a 24 millimeter spindle diameter, so yeah, the same as a Shimano crankset, so it should be compatible with any Shimano compatible bottom brackets. Interesting design that the chain rings are not bolted onto a spider. The chain rings and the spider are all in one piece that then bolts onto the spindle of the crank here. And this spindle pattern maybe looks like SRAM. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments, but yeah, obviously, hopefully this way of constructing things keeps things a bit lighter. But disadvantage is when your chain rings wear out, you've got to replace the whole lot. As for weight, let's try get this on here and this here. 698.5 grams. So 698 grams, that makes it lighter than 105 and basically the same weight as Ultegra. The machining looks really nice on this thing. I kind of like it. Nice black stealth, no over-the-top stickers or anything. We'll throw it on the bike and see how it performs. Almost forgot, bike's not going anywhere without a chain. They also have their cheap and cheerful chain that came with the Groupset. Let's have a look with this guy. So 267 grams, including the bubble wrap. That puts it pretty much in line with Shimano's entry-level 105 Ultegra chains. They also sent me this cool bling bling colored, like titanium effect colored chain too. And I don't want to open it now and get grease all over everything, but yeah, we'll slap that on too and see how much that weighs. So when I was testing the Groupset, I threw it on my Els Vanjog frame set. You may recognize this as my super light climbing bike, But these days that bike's undergoing a bunch of upgrades, so it was already in pieces. So I put the whole group set as well as the other extra bits from CVR onto the frame. For wheels, I ended up using my Zip 30 wheels I had lying around, because I think they're kind of the same level as the group set, you know, not top end, not bottom end, a decent aluminium wheel set. Installing the group set was fairly straightforward. I already had a SRAM rear derailleur on the frame, so first I tested the shifters with the SRAM rear derailleur and that worked absolutely fine. The rest of the group set, super easy to install apart from the front derailleur. Installing the front derailleur was super hard. It would have been made a lot easier with a barrel adjuster. The main problem was no matter how hard you pulled the cable and clamped it down, there just always felt like there was some slack in the cable. And so changing from the small ring to the big ring at the front was super hard. Like I said, if you had the barrel adjuster in the middle of your cable to take out some of that slack, it would have been a lot easier. When I switched the front derailleur out for like a super entry-level Shimano Tiagra unit, it was instantly better. So I don't know if it's a design of the front derailleur from Sensah, where the first few bits of pulling on the cable just doesn't actually move the derailleur cage or what. But yeah, if you're gonna use the Sensah front derailleur, I recommend you have a barrel adjuster. Or just ditch the Sensah front derailleur and switch out for a cheap front derailleur from Shimano or SRAM. The rear derailleur actually shifted a lot better than I thought it would. And again, this was with the cheap rear cassette and the cheap chain, both from the Sensah sister company. But rear shifting was very good, up and down. I'd say it was a bit finicky to get set up, adjusting it to get it just in the right place. But once you got it set up, it ran really quiet and it shifted up and down, no problems. As for the shifters themselves, so before they were on the bike, it felt like the lever throw was really long. It was pretty hard. Like, I've got definitely smaller than average size hands, but it was a lot better once it was on the bike. So shifting up 3 gears at a time on the back was a bit of a stretch. But a 1 or 2 at a time was super easy, and even the front derailleur on the left hand, which felt really hard off the bike, it was a lot easier once it was on the bike. I'd say the shifting feel of the levers isn't quite up there with Ultegra or higher end SRAM, but it's probably on par with lower end Shimano like Tiagra or Sora, maybe 105. So shifter feel, yeah, it's not bad. As for the other components they sent me, the CVR crankset was great. That felt super stiff, and I don't know if it was because the chain rings and the spider are a 2-in-1 like integrated solution kind of thing, but it felt really stiff. I was really impressed with that. Installing that also super easy, just went straight into a Shimano bottom bracket, no problem. The brakes were fine. Obviously, these Zip 30s have an aluminium braking surface, so braking performance was no problem. They didn't feel terrible. They didn't feel amazing. If you've seen my review of the KCNC brakes before, they feel better than those brakes, but probably don't feel quite as nice as a 105 or an Ultegra brake, but similar, very similar. The cassette and the chain, I had no complaints. They were both running quietly. Shifting was fine. I don't know how much of that is down to the rear derailleur or the cassette or the chain, but it's probably a combination of all three. But for sound, it wasn't any noisier than a Shimano or a SRAM. The quietest chains I've used are KCNC chains. Not quite that quiet, but yeah, decently quiet. So would I recommend this group set? Yes and no. If you want a group set that you can just throw on your bike and forget about it and be super easy to install, this is probably not the group set for you. But if you're watching this video, if you're a fan of China cycling, then that's probably not what you're after. You probably like tinkering with your bike, and you probably like the whole DIY aspect of things. Because this is going to take a bit more work to set up and get working perfectly than a Shimano or a SRAM group set. But once it is set up, I think it performs great. I mean, I saw there's a UCI Continental team sponsored by Sensah and also using this group set to race. The Memel team out of Sweden, I believe. And I saw a group called the Equip CMI. They're also using this on their bikes. So yeah, it's working for them in races, and it worked for me. Obviously, the main attraction of this group set is the price. Like $100 or $150 shipped to you on AliExpress. Super cheap. If you're after the top end, money is no object group set, this isn't for you. But if you want something for your race bike that you think is going to get crashed a lot, or for your rainy day bike, or for a second play around bike you're just working on, or you're a student, or you're not earning that much money, racing shouldn't be for only the rich, it should be for everyone. So I think this group set for people like that, I totally recommend it. I'm going to keep playing around with mine. I'm not going to use it on my super light climbing bike because it's not that light, but for like a rainy day bike or a second bike, I think it's a great group set. So is it a perfect group set? No. Is it great value for money? Yes. And I think that's the big takeaway from this. Like, it's great to see another competition, another competitor in the group set marketplace, and especially one that's going for the cheaper options. Like I said before, I think riding bikes should be for everyone. It shouldn't be just elitist, let's all make the most expensive group sets we can. So I thoroughly applaud Sensah for making this group set. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review. As always, subscribe so you get more content like this in the future. Hit the like button so more people see this video, and I'll see you next time. China Cycling out.